Hey everyone, so today I felt like actually showing off the GT list. I know one of my subscribers was asking for it, and personally, this is my favorite deck of the format to be playing right now. I've kind of rediscovered my love for playing GT Goku like over the course of the format. I still won't really deny that I think Baby is slightly better than this leader, slightly, but since Beerus is like a lot more popular on the ladder right now, I would actually recommend playing GT Goku over it. GT Goku, I think, personally has like an auto win factor when it comes to the red matchups, whereas the baby leader, whilst I do thoroughly think it still beats Jiren and Beerus very consistently, it's not nearly as easy as it is with GT Goku using the leader effect to buff your power cards out of range of their high-end removal. Basically, the most efficient thing is both both Beerus and Jiren usually will try to clear your SCR Goku through one card, and that's not possible when he's 45k. So it's always going to take on their part 2 cards or more to clear the Goku. Like the cheapest way to clear a Goku when it's 45k is Fua into Kamehameha, and for them to do that, which is basically a free energy play, but if they're wasting free energy to do so, they're not promoting a Rumshi, right? They're not promoting a Jiren down, which would be a weird thing to play down in the matchup, but it's stuff like that. They're not playing their top end, and so long as Red are not playing their top end in the later stages of the game, they're losing essentially. But yeah, let's go on to the list. So 50 cards here. Very, very similar to the template of Baby. Baby is basically based around GT Goku, but playing the stronger card names, i.e. instead of playing Kakarot, they're playing Bulla. Instead of playing Hercule, they've got Trunks, the brainwashed one, right? But because we don't have access to this cards, we have to play this deck a little bit differently. We're essentially trying to push the damage in the most efficient way possible every single turn, whilst protecting our board with this monster, right? Like Trunks SR is just a phenomenal house across the board in all matchups, honestly. Against green and yellow, like yellow can't beat this card like without taking the turn off. It's just not possible. You just keep this card active with marker. They have to use Final Explosion to clear it. And if you play on curve, so turn 1 you play Kakarot, turn 2 you play the Trunks instead of playing the GT Goku, and then turn 3 you play SCR. They can't clear SCR ever. Like there's no way for them to remove this card in yellow. The worst they can do is energy absorption it, and that's a terrible play. I'm not gonna lie. Energy absorption is basically like taking the turn off, because you could literally play Great 8 Baby into a Pan GT or another copy of Trunks or Hercule or even Goten. Very high impact type of play, and still gain the draw as long as you can replace the marker to like protect the GT, to keep the GT Trunks' effect relevant. Or when you do have the SCR Goku down next to the GT Trunks, they'll have the Final Explosion, just killing the Trunks. Your best retort at that point is to play a Great 8 Baby into another Trunks. I usually find they lose the game if you do something like that. They can't at that point, they can't really contest the board anymore. They're just trying to kill you. But I'll do the card by card because I'm skipping a lot of steps. So the main removal against blue, it's primarily for blue, is Giru. We can recycle this with Hercule whenever we need to. Kills Whis as well, and Bulma. These are the 3 names I usually consistently keep saying. Against blue, it is really important that you're able to clear Sharpener or clear the one cost cantrip that Zamasu has down, and then you're able to swing for 25 to force the damage. The worst thing Zamasu can do is consistently get out of the hits. When they keep doing that, it's just extending the game longer than you want it to actually go on. And the longer the game goes on in there, like the longer the game goes, it's going to be in their favor because you will eventually fatigue of cards or deck out. Those are two very real things that can happen. You draw and cycle through a lot of cards. You have to really micromanage your resources, and I've said it multiple times, like if, as you've seen like in some of my other videos, try to swing the perfect number. What I mean by this is if Zamasu is the biggest example I can give you. If you're playing against Zamasu and they're 15 and they have an energy up, the highest they can get up to is 35. So your best bet is to try to swing 25 or more. So, like, just swing anywhere between 25 to 35. Without you're not burning cards from your hand to do this. Like, you want to do like play a Giru, pop a cantrip. So like the easiest example I can give you, turn 1, they play a cantrip, pass, you go second, you charge, play Giru, pop the cantrip, swing with leader, combo the Giru away. Swing 25, force the damage through, because they're just going to 10k out of the hit. Honestly, they will. If you can keep doing that on curve, just force a damage through every single turn against Zamasu. Number one, they'll have more cards in their hand than they're used to, so a lot of their 7 or less cards will be a lot more irrelevant, and they'll have to do very inefficient attacks, i.e. they're wasting combo to basically resolve a Gohan, which is really bad. Like, they're doing stuff like that. So, like, you turn off a lot of cards that have the 7 or less clause on them. Like, Pilaf becomes a lot worse, Videl becomes infinitely worse. Like, swinging these numbers against them makes it a lot more difficult. Para, we don't need to talk about Para, right? This is just a staple card we play on a big dude. Nothing more to really say. Recyclable by Hercule. You try to hold this card for as long as possible. Combo it off. You're better off comboing off from hand than charging this, since we only have 2 copies. As long as we have a Hercule, we can recycle this card. So yeah, Hercule is our main toolbox card that is going to get back whatever cards we need, ranging from any of these 1-drops. Like Kakarot is going to be our generator. Pan is going to be the way we push damage. I'll talk about Pan in a second. And then we have times 10 as well, which is our form of removal against low end. Like, we want to be able to answer the board in some formal fashion when we play against blue. Seeing this card as well with Hercule, honestly, is how you can stay in the game against Satan City or blue in general. I've always felt like if you're able to times 10 a blue player 3 times on curve efficiently, you're in a very good position, which is not too hard or a big requirement when you have Hercule in the deck. This is a card I wouldn't charge or combo away. I think you need every single copy in your hand to recycle whatever the situation calls for. So Pan GT, this is a card that people don't really play very often. So she's a 1-cost 10k combo. 10k power is also really huge. It basically forces red players to play Fua. If they want to clear this, Whis will not clear it, and some people autopilot when they play against this card, that they just Whis it, acting like it would KO it, which it won't, or remove it, right? So obviously the on play is you choose a Goku GT, and then it gains 5k for the turn, and then if you have an energy marker, another 5k. It's like Margarita. It basically gives 10k. You have your leader, so you have your leader, SCR, and 3-drop Goku as your targets. So long as your leader is always a target, it's just viable. The main reason I play this is for the Zamasu matchup. It basically enables you to develop a card that will allow you to swing for 25k or 35 based on what they've done. So if they have an energy floating, you can just play Pan, target your leader, swing, combo the Pan, go to 35. That will play through Gallic Gun and Proud Saiyan. They have to take the damage, which is really, really good. If they play the cantrip, instead, you get to just play the Pan, target the leader, swing for 25. They're not going to 10-5 out an attack. Like, they're not going to 10-5 out with 25k attack. That's too many cards to give up. And then the following turn, you can just swing 25k again by comboing off. You get a lot of value. It also allows you to just swing very big in the later stages of the game, basically enabling your leader to always swing for 25 or more, which I think is, like, whether you have an energy marker or not, which I think is a very underutilized tool when I see people play GT Goku. You need this for the Zamasu matchup. I honestly feel like you do. It just lets you push through the sheer amount of defense they have, and it lets the game end a lot quicker. More often than not, if they're playing 60 cards, they're not going to see all their super combos, bro. They're not. In 60, they're just not. So being able to push that additional point of damage earlier in the game when they have not filtered through their deck entirely feels really, really good. Making them have additional cards in their hands makes their extras worse. It makes their Videl worse, makes Gohan worse, makes Vegito 5-drop worse, makes like just a vast majority of their names become a lot weaker when the 7 or less clause is being very inconvenient. The fact that this also can target the SCR is just icing on the cake. So you're just pushing like these really big numbers very efficiently and getting your opponent down into a range where either of the Bardocks will end the game. So Kakarot is our energy marker generator. I will say this now, if you're playing against Beerus and you're going first, do not play this turn 1, you will lose the game. You can't go -2 turn 1 against a crit leader. You will lose, bro. Don't do it. Just chill and wait until turn 2 to play it. Like, it's still the same thing whether you play this turn 1 or turn 2. The only thing that playing this turn 1 does is make the 3-drop Goku on curve. That's it. Honestly, that's all it does. If you wait until the following turn instead, you can just you can actually get down a cantrip first to kind of filter the hand out, then play the Kakarot, put the worst cards in your hand to the bottom, or a card you just want to draw again back to the top, just to gain the marker. Then you can play SCR on curve. Playing SCR turn 3 is still one of the most powerful things you can do in Dragon Ball. It's very hard to deal with, honestly, still. Obviously, you don't want to get too tunnel visioned into playing SCR early, though, sometimes, because this can prevent you from awakening, which will basically prevent you from protecting your cards or push bigger damage. So just be wary of that when you play Kakarot. And so long as you have one in the as long as you have one in the drop, you can always gain an energy marker in the deck via Hercule. Granted, you need an energy marker to gain an energy marker, so just be wary of that, right? Fasha is just our regular cantrip. I am taking Goten in the deck. This used to be the other Goten that bounced 4-drops, but I just felt like it was a bit over the top, having 6 cards that interacted with Jiren and the mirror. It was like, especially if the mirror doesn't come up too often, Pan was enough. I feel like you're meant to play either Pan or the bounce Goten, one or the other, not both. And I put this in once again for the Zamasu matchup, because this card can, because they're going to be on their front side for a very long time, just enables you to push a damage and KO one of their cantrips, or best case scenario, you can KO Videl, which is really good. Being able to KO Videl is really, really good. Not many other cards that really matter. Crit Khalifa or Daima Goku when you're playing against Beerus can come up sometimes. Whis are also a good snipe against Jiren. You have to be aware though, this is going to be a one and done type of card. It's not going to live the turn you play it, the turn after you play it. It's going to die immediately afterwards, but that's okay if you're trading up. Like, clearing a dude and dealing damage is still very good synergy. It being a target for Great Ape Baby can also come up sometimes as well. Not often, but it can come up. Like, killing cantrips, never underestimate just being able to kill a cantrip for free. I think this is a cool little tech that is very helpful in the blue matchup primarily. Being able to KO Sharpeners on attack is amazing. It kills everything within the Satan City package, essentially, outside of Gohan, the Great Saiyan Man package, and then the Vegito. That's it. Like, it's like 3 to 4 card names in the Satan City deck. This KOs everything else. Eraser, Peel-Off, Videls, and Sharpeners, which is, it's very, very good, bro. I can't, like, don't sleep on this. It's also kind of useful against yellow, being able to pop Bulmers. I'm always a big fan of being able to pop Bulmers or pop their cantrips so they can't pop them for Majin Buu. Majin Buu evil effect to rip cards from your hands. So yeah, we got Pan. Pan is just kind of staple in GT Goku, my personal opinion. I think you always opt to play Pan over Goten. You can play one or the other. I would just recommend you play Pan because Pan is a self-awakener, and having more self-awakeners in your deck I just think is always good. You're not going to see Pan in like a card like Baby because obviously Goten 2-drop is searchable and recurable, and you already have 12 self-awakeners within the realms of Baby. The effect to be able to just draw a card on attack is just amazing. Don't forget that effect. Like, try to always get max value out of this. You don't need to bounce a 4-drop to get the draw. You can still just draw by paying 8 energy. Being able to just do that every turn is amazing. It just generates so much card advantage. Obviously, when you're against Jiren, don't charge these, don't combo these off, just hold them. More often than not, like I've mentioned before, Jiren players on average will not play Jiren against you, but if they do, you have to punish. You have the immediate punish. So also a very, very powerful card to play off of Grade 8 Baby. I think being able to play, like if you have SCR on the board and you're able to play Grade 8 Baby into Pan, Eat a Life, swing with Pan, use the marker, bounce a 4-drop, draw a card, and then awaken, swing 30, regain the marker. That's really powerful. I really like that. Trunks, we've mentioned this before in the baby deck profile. You're never going to play black without 4 copies of Trunks outside of the Rildo line, right? Because Rildo can't generate energy markers as efficiently. This effect to protect yourself is the main reason why you can hang with blue somewhat. This is the bane of green. Like, green can never beat this card efficiently ever unless they're playing Tien. And not many people are on the 3-drop Tien Shinhan tech. You usually never want to swing with this unless you can read your opponent has the... Like, you're never going to swing on this unless you know your opponent... Unless you have a read on your opponent having Goten Sickle. If they have Goten Sickle, then obviously get the value out of this card by swinging with it. But more often than not, it doesn't matter if they bounce this back with Goten. As long as you've been generating your markers correctly and playing efficiently, you'll always be able to just play the next SCR into another Trunks GT and just keep it protected, and they have to do it again, which basically they're not removing the card. They're not clearing it. They're not bottom decking it unless they're teching Trunks in. So this is also your mainstay protection against like Final Explosion as well, which is really good. Against Red as well, one thing I will also say. Against Red, specifically Beerus and Jiren, don't sleep on this card being good in the matchup when your SCR Goku is like 45k. Like this, if you can actually get this to stick when you play an SCR Goku, it's usually not going to happen until you're on the 5 energy mark. If you've got this on the board and it sticks, it's rare for that to happen, but like it can happen. If you ever can get your Trunks GT to stick against Red, primarily like Jiren, for example, if you can get this card to stick against Jiren, and then you get to buff your SCR Goku out of the range of removal, it becomes really impossible for your opponent to deal with your board state. It really, really is. But then don't be afraid to buff this card out of range of the removal as well against Red. Like, your opponent can't clear your 30k until they clear your 35k Trunks, right? Like, as long as you can efficiently recur them, as long as you can get the marker back when you're doing this sort of stuff, don't sleep on that effect. It is useful. It comes up like once every 10 games sort of thing, because more often than not, this will just get Fu or Weast away if you play it on curve, but sometimes it does come up. I did mention this is the bane of green, right? Green can't beat this card. Like, they really, really can't. And like, I would always recommend playing this on curve against yellow than playing 3-drop Goku on curve. If you're going second, I think it's always better to just play this Trunks. Play this Trunks, Eat a Life, and pass into SCR Goku, as opposed to playing this Goku on curve. I'm only playing 2 copies. I don't think you need 4 of this one. I feel like you have enough Self-Awakeners, enough energy marker generators. Like, this is the card I always cut down when I'm playing this version of the list. If it's searchable and I'm playing like Baby's a deck that needs to awaken to do its shit, whereas GT Goku doesn't really need to awaken because it's just got a generic pool of cards that don't matter if they're rested or not. So it's the main reason I usually only play 2 to 3 copies of this card. This is usually your turn 3 play in a standard game. Like, you'll just play this turn 3 if you haven't got a Kakarot. To gain the marker, go to 4, then you're charging to 5. Then you have the choice to either play... Like, you have the choice to go SCR Goku into Hercule, add back something. Or you can play SCR Goku without burning the marker. Use the leader effect on the SCR Goku to put it to 45, then swing 45, regain the marker. So it's like, it's you pick your poison about how you want to sequence things. But this is just primarily only played on curve. Outside of that, like, its value declines like after turn 4, in my personal opinion. it's only going to be useful when you need to desperately generate a marker or desperately self-awaken. Only 2 copies of the dual attacking Bardock. This is just a card I want to use to finish the game, and cards I want to finish the game with, I don't really want to have at 4. It's a card I want to draw into in the later stages of the game. The only matchup where I'll usually play this super duper early if I see it or I'll mulligan for it is androids, because playing this turn 2 against androids I've found is near impossible for the deck to deal with it unless they're playing a warm greeting. And a lot of android lists have moved away from a warm greeting at 2 copies now because Jiren isn't as prevalent as it used to be on the ladder, number 1. Number 2, a lot of players now just prefer, if the opponent plays the Jiren, they just play Broly and swing. They'll just swing leader into it for 30 and then play Broly and swing 50 twice instead. And just burn their super combos from their hand in the earlier stages in the game. But yeah, like Bardock in particularly is just very, very good with the leader effect. I think this is the best target of, like, both of the Bardocks are the best targets for the leader effect, honestly, for closing out the game. Bringing Bardock to 35 and then comboing off a 10 or a 5 going 40. Swinging 45 into 35 or swinging 40-35 is just very obscene. Being able to filter non-combo from your hand when you're attacking with it as well is also something you should keep in track of. Like, don't be afraid to combo this off or this off if you have multiples rotting in your hand. You'll draw the card anyway. When you're going for game, do that first. Like if you buff this with leader, swing with it, combo off one of these, one of your zeros, and convert it into try to convert that into a combo so you can actually utilize it, right? Like, since it's always going to draw a card. Only once, but like, converting a 0 combo into a potential 5k or 10k, I think is very, very good for filtering. Obviously, this is a very hard card to remove. They're not going to swing into this unless they can actually remove it. Or if they swing a number that will require a super combo, like, if they take a super combo from you, I feel like exchanging a super combo to keep this alive is fine, because this will just take 2 cards from the opponent. I would also recommend, when you're playing against androids, try to only just combo off cantrips that you've played onto the board. Don't combo too much shit from your hand. You don't want to swing big numbers when you know your opponent's just going to take them. Try to just swing like annoying 25ks, or just like, if you swing the 30s, do it when they're awakened. Don't do it when they're unawakened. You're wasting combo at that point. Swinging 25 is just much more efficient when your opponent's unawakened. Once they are awakened, just swing 30s. I don't think I need to say anything about SCR Goku, bro. This is just one of the best cards in the deck. If you can buff this card up to 45k or 40, try to resolve the leader effect on it if you have the spare energy, if possible, whilst retaining the marker. Unless you're going to recycle the marker, then yeah, sure, buff this to 45, then swing, regain the marker. But like, this is usually my go-to card to buff with leader effect, whether I put it to 40 or 45, because every turn this card lives, you're just snowballing advantage, and it's just very hard to lose. It's very hard to lose when this card lives, or you get 2 on the board. Great 8 Baby, I still think is just a very good generically card. I completely screwed up that sentence. I still think Great 8 Baby is just a good generic card to play in any black deck. I would never play more than 2 copies ever, because of the 0 combo is a little bit rough. But being able to play to the board and then comboing away any card that your opponent has or that you have that you want to either buff your damage or you don't want to deal with a certain threat on the board. Good example is Videl 2-drop. I usually like Videl 2-drop or like Gohan SR in red. I think are like 2 very good examples of cards you just want to combo away immediately. You just want to get rid of them. Whis is also a great one. Vegeta in yellow. Majin Buu Evil, just being able to out these cards immediately while still swinging 30 at the leader. You'll be buffing your opponent's leader to 25 or 30. Obviously, when you're comboing away the zeros, they're not going to gain anything, which is insane. Like, comboing away at Nappa is great value. Such a powerful swing when you get to swing 30 and out the card. But yeah, not really much more to say. Being able to play the Hercule off of this when you have a marker, or Videl, being able to play Pan, off of this as well is really good. The Trunks GT that protects your board is also a fantastic target. Glorio is also an amazing target if your opponent has a marker. Like, being able to play this and then play Glorio, draw a card, is great tempo. It doesn't come up very often. The only color that usually will not burn their marker immediately is red. Other than that, though, most players will burn their marker. For Glorio, I still just think this card's too generically good to not play. You don't have to play 4, by the way. You can just like trim one to play another 10k. Like, if you want to play a third Power Brothers or third Giru, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just a fan of 4 of this card because I just want to see it turn 2. Like, playing Kakarot turn 1 into turn 2 Glorio feels very good. And there's not really much your opponent can do around, like, Glorio and Kakarot in the same deck is very much like Bulla and Glorio in the same deck. Your opponent's damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they don't burn the marker, like, as opposed to Baby, where they have to choose between playing Bulla or Glorio, GT Goku can play Kakarot turn 1, and then turn 2 they can play Glorio, so it doesn't matter. And if they choose to burn the marker, you don't have to play Glorio. You can play Trunks instead, or you can play Pan and eat your life, or you could play SR Goku. This SR Goku, if you've played Kakarot turn 1, right? Like, you can just generate some form of card advantage instead of playing the Glorio. But like I've said, if more often than not your opponent will not burn the marker turn 1, it takes a very confident player to do so, to burn the marker turn 1. It's very scary to even do that if they see you play Kakarot turn 1, because they just know there's going to be a turn 3 SCR Goku coming down, and that's a very scary thing to deal with 1 less energy. So I just like that opportunity to make your opponent make that mistake. And if they do burn the marker, it's still a 2-drop 25k. Like, 2-drop 25k is an amazing stat line, honestly. You can generate your own marker and make this a 2-cost 25k, and you can buff it to 40 with your leader effect with the marker. Very, very powerful. Our last attacker is just Double Strike Bardock. I usually play only 2 in Goku because we don't have the resources like Baby does to proc this effect as consistently as Baby can. Like, as I've said before, 5 energy with marker in Baby, they can literally combo Baby Possessed Boy Formed into Trunks. That will proc the leader effect. It will proc the Bardock effect to pop something. The Trunks will add 2 10Ks back. The Trunks with the Baby Possessed Boy Form and the 2 10Ks will be a swing for 70 by itself, which is very big. But in this deck, when we're on 6 energy with marker, you can buff this, like, you can literally just put this from 35 to 50. And it's just a 50k double strike attack, right? Without having to commit any cards from your hand. That's just a scary number that your opponent doesn't want to deal with. It's usually why your opponent will do everything they can do to not be at 2 life, because it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. If they go to 1, you just play this Bardock and buff yourself up. You buff this one to 35, and then you swing 45 once, or swing 55. Like, you probably swing like 55 or 60 once, and then dump in the second attack. Whereas this one, if they go to 2, you get to just play this, buff this to 50 or 45, and then just dump the rest of your hand into the double strike swing, and then pop one of their combos on the board. It's very, very powerful. But because the games usually go on quite a while, and you are drawing a lot of cards, this is a card I just want to draw into. I don't want to play this card at 3. Just for me personally, I've never been a fan of playing 3 of this card. We're just playing it because it's a form of removal, not because it's a double striker. It's just like, it's kind of weird to explain, but like, we're only playing this because it's removal, not the double striker effect. If we wanted to play the double striker, we'd play the 4-cost GT Goku, but that card's just not particularly very good because it's not a form of removal, and what we value more than anything in black is removal, which is why Soul Punisher, when it comes out in set 5, is going to be so high valued. The last card to talk about, obviously, is just times 10. This card is just still a house in the early game. I don't think this card is particularly very good in the mid to late game. If it is needed, obviously you can just add it back with Hercule, which is great. But more often than not, like, I don't really need it outside. Like, after the first 4 turns of the game, that's kind of where its value kind of goes down as the game goes on. This is another card, though, if you're playing against more blue on the ladder, this is a card I would probably recommend you trim. Like, you can just trim a Glorio for a 3rd copy of it. Honestly, like, you can do that, or trim a Trunks GT so you don't lose a 10k. You kind of want to always have around 16 10k combos in a deck on average. It feels very weird to not play that amount. You could also choose to just cut the Great 8 Baby. If you don't want to play Great 8 Baby, just cut that. Put times 10 to 3 and put Double Striker to 3. Those are the recommendations I would make if you wanted to. If you don't like the Great 8 Baby, or you want to have 3 Double Strikers with 3 times 10, like Great 8 Baby is the card I'd recommend you want to cut. If you don't feel like you care about Zamasu too much, then you can cut this Pan and put, I would not cut a 10k for zeros. I would cut the 10k for additional Giru or additional Para. In terms of your matchups, personally, I think, like, Zamasu is probably your hardest matchup alongside Satan City. It requires very strong technical play, and unfortunately, Trunks is not very good against Satan City. They can just answer it with a sharp, like, Stage and Sharpener with Great Saiyaman just outs this card immediately. But Zamasu has a harder time efficiently removing this card. All they can do is bounce it. So basically, it puts a 1 energy tax on every form of removal they want to play onto the board. So Sinister Sickle, instead of 3 energy, costs 4 for them to remove a board state. And more often than not, if they're playing Goten to bounce with your Trunks and just Sinister Sickling your SCR away, I don't think you really care about that too much. Especially if you get to keep the marker, then you could potentially just go Great 8 Baby into Trunks again and then swing 30 and swing Leader 20. So you're going to get guaranteed damage against Zamasu. Zamasu is a war of attrition, which unfortunately more often than not you will lose, but you have the means of beating it. It's just you have to be in for a very grindy game. Jiren and Beerus, I think you beat very, very easily. If you've watched my Beerus video, if you've watched my Goku into Jiren matchup, you'll see, like, the aim of the game is just to be patient. This is a different list than the list I posted in that matchup. All that's different is that Bardock was at 3, and this used to be at 4, and Kakarot was at 2 or 0. I think I had Kakarot at 2, and then both of these were at 3. Or, to be fair, I think I didn't play Kakarot. I think Kakarot wasn't in the deck. I just had 4 of this, so 2 slots here, a 3rd copy of Bardock and a 3rd copy of times 10. Against Beerus, focus on awakening on curve, essentially. Try to awaken on curve. You kind of just have to firm the leader swings, like, unless you can efficiently 10k out, i.e. like if you're going first, for example, if you're going second, for example, and they go turn 1 Whis, you can potentially just punish it by going Giru, pop it, swing with lead, and then you can get out of the swing with a Giru, right? Which feels really nice. But, like, take every opportunity to self-awaken in that matchup. Like, utilize all of these if you can. Buff your GT Goku out of range. Buff your big bodies out of range. Primarily these. These 10 names are going to be your main driving force of attackers. Try to buff GT Goku out of range into 45. They'll probably still remove it, but it will cost them a lot more cards. It will cost them an additional card. Unfortunately, you can't start Beerus with black. You can't do that, unfortunately. But, like I said before, buffing your cards out of range of their removal, i.e. them not being able to play Rumshi on curve on a GT Goku, it has to be 45k, it can't be 40, because they'll just leader effect it back to 30 and then play Rumshi anyway. It needs to be 45. So it really requires you to micromanage your energy marker efficiently. And also, the other bit of advice I would say is if you're able to combo out the leader swings with a 10k, and your opponent plays a Khalifa and gets impatient with it by swinging in it into the card, that's usually how they start losing the game. If you're able to swing into the Khalifa, gain a draw, and then either swing 25 into it, or like with like a GT Goku free drop, or you play Glorio, swing 25 into it, or if you have a cantrip on the board, you can swing 30 into it. 25 is usually better. You'd rather them just waste cards when they're a crit leader. If they're not drawing cards, they're not winning. Against yellow, yellow's a little tricky. Specifically, I'm talking about Majin Buu Evil. That matchup's a little tricky. Usually how I win that matchup is to amass a very healthy amount of card advantage. You're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to lose cards to Barbody, Majin Buu Evil. If they high roll that card back to back, losing 4 cards is rough. There's not much you can really do about that. You kind of need to snowball a lot of advantage with this Goku. You really do. Snowball as much advantage as you can with it. Don't be afraid to bounce back to strong Buu with the Pan if you can. Times 10 obviously goes super hard in that matchup as well. Just like try to keep the marker, recur it with Hercule. This is a card I would mulligan for in yellow matchups in general, because this card kills Majin Buu Evil. You want to go second in that matchup anyhow, with the average curve of just playing a cantrip into Trunks, into SCR Goku, and then try to get one more of these down. If you can get 2 of these down with a Trunks, you're in a position to win. I would be very wary of how you use your super combos. Try to be very sparing with them. This is how you're going to prevent yourself from dying from like the because they can kill you from 5. They can literally kill you from 5 energy, from 5 life. So you need to be very wary about your super combos. Be very precious with them. Hold them for as long as as possible. Try to trade for the board a little bit, but your dump to kill them will be slightly better than their dump to kill you. It comes down, I think it's a little 50-50. It might be slightly edged out in their favor, because it comes down to if they see Barbody into Majin Buu Evil, that pops a card, pops it, draws, and discards 2. If they do that back to back, it's kind of hard to win those games. But that doesn't matter what deck you're playing outside of blue, that's kind of hard to win anyway. But if you can thread the needle of that and like get past that, power through with like your card advantage you gain through GT Goku. Great 8 Baby is also insane in the matchup as well, I can't lie. Like this card outs everything in their deck except for it kills every Majin Buu card except for Barrier Buu and Double Striker obviously, but they usually just energy absorption this card away, so after it's done its first swing. But it's why I kind of like this card being in the deck. It just kind of ensures you can always out the Majin Buu Evil, because if Majin Buu Evil lives for a turn, I feel like you just lose the game. Against androids, just play this card turn 2, you'll win the game. If you go second, you can just play this turn 2. I'm not lying, you'll win the game. They just can't beat this card ever. If you're going first, just play Kakarot turn 1, turn 2, try to play this. If not, just play this Goku, just play this Trunks into this SCR, and just attack. Self-awaken and attack. They can't ever clear your board. They can't clear this away, ever, if this card is on the board active. Just try to not fatigue. Don't go too ham when you're trying to aggro your opponent down, especially if they're playing the Earthling build. They will turn the corner and out advantage you in the end. And you won't be able to end the game. But so long as this card's on the board, they can't sell you. And they can't Brody you. Or they'll Brody this away, but they can't then swing 45 twice into your Gokus. But those are cards that are worth super combos to keep alive, bro. And then you just para like the Broly, right? And you just do the regular game plan. That's kind of every matchup. The mirror match kind of comes down to the usual. I still find whoever gets to go first in the mirror match kind of wins, unfortunately. Being able to play this turn 1 or 2 into turn 3 this, and then like turn 1 this, Kakarot, into turn 2 this, into turn 3 this, I've found consistently kind of wins you the game because they can't Goten this card back to your hand. They can't Goten or Pan this card back to your hand. And then you get to slam, like, you either get to slam a second copy of this, or you get to slam a Great Ape Baby into a potential Pan and out whatever their board state is whilst drawing multiple cards. And once you've snowballed the advantage in your favor in that way, as long as you keep the marker with the Trunks, it's very hard for them to win. Granted, they can one card answer it with times 10 Kamehameha, but you're putting them on having times 10 Kamehameha when going second, which means they're not playing on curve efficiently. That's kind of the matchups all in a nutshell. The next deck profile I'm going to be doing, I'm not sure just yet. If there's anything in particular you want to see, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to continue with the decks I've been playing in set 5. Once again, the set should be dropping this weekend, and I will be posting I don't know how long the VOD will be, but it's going to be a long-ass video of me, Drumlin, and Atomic Ego talking about the main set of set 5, and hopefully, I'm gonna, like, me primarily, I'm gonna be rating cards out of 5 and giving my thoughts and opinions on them. They will be broken down into chapters based on color. It's gonna be a super long video, so brace yourself for that. I will probably stream when it goes live, so if you want to catch me live when that happens this week, just be sure to check the description and you'll see a link to my Twitch. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.